we're back. This is Rant Line Radio, the Carcast after USC's 29-28 loss to Maryland. We're just gonna get right into it. I'm Mike Castillo, my co-host, Rant Line Studio in Los Angeles. Alicia Artola. Alicia, I am not a fan of the movie Groundhog Day, but I understand the premise. The premise is this, right? It's this.
Yeah. It's, you wake up every morning and you hear, "I've got you, babe." And you feel your stomach drop because it's the same morning. And you wake up in the middle of the fourth quarter and the equivalent of "I've got you, babe" plays. And you know where it's going. You know exactly where it's going. I had a friend text me with 4 minutes to go in the game, laying out exactly how it was going to go. What did he say? He said, Maryland marches down, score, up by 120 left. We drive to their 40 and then have a bad pass, drop, or two, and lose. That's the script. That was with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, by the way.
So, if you're not keeping track at home, SC is 3-4. They are legitimately four plays from being 7-0. 5 plays from being 2-5. Every single game has come down to the final minute with the exception of Wisconsin and Utah State. You know, every single week, Michigan, SC does not allow a first down in the second half until a team with no quarterback miraculously rattles off a game-winning touchdown drive completely on the ground, getting 2 fourth downs along the way. Minnesota, SC has the game ready to put it away, and pressure leads to a ball that flies up in the air, tipped away, and intercepted, which leads to Minnesota coming down and running 2 sneaks at the goal line, a stop on third down, and another one right at the goal line that probably gets in, but like it was the weird review play. The following week, SC has the number 4 team on the ropes, blows a 2-touchdown lead, then fights back a couple of times to take the lead in the fourth quarter, only to throw an interception before setting up the game-winning field goal. This week, not only did Maryland pull off what I'm pretty sure might be the only time in the history of man that someone has done the down 14 and go for 2 thing. That has been a thing that has been talked about for the last 3-4 years, that is the mathematical thing to do, is to go for 2 on the first one because it's like 50%. If you get it, then all you need to do is kick the PAT, the next one, and you win the game. If you miss it, well, you need to go and get the 2-point conversion anyways. It's 50%. The odds are you're going to make one of them at least. I believe, I know it's never happened in the NFL. It's never worked in the NFL. I'm pretty sure if it's happened in college football, it's happened like once that anyone has ever pulled it off. SC found a way to lose to that. Not only that, but like having a field goal to go up 2 scores blocked with under 2 minutes to go. Like, I don't think you could write a script for every single USC game being the most heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, excruciating. Like, this season was designed to put, like, 2001 Nebraska lost like 9 games within like 5 points or whatever. Is this SC's version of that, but maybe worse? I don't understand how does it happen like this? How? It's not just the loss; it's the like literal repeating of a new excruciating heartbreaking way to lose every week.
I'm pretty sure, and I don't know, I didn't watch that Nebraska team closely enough, but I'm pretty sure that Nebraska team didn't blow 14-point leads every time they lost those close games. This team is... last week I said that I thought this team was unlucky, and I put this on Twitter. This team is not unlucky.
Certainly not in this game.
They are... No, the whole season. Because this is... all of the grace and the understanding that I gave them for the first 3 losses goes away when you lose this game the exact same way. Because this game is not they're the number 4 team in the country. This game is not they're the defending national champions. Right. This game is not it's the first road game in the Big Ten and everybody's having trouble on the road. Oregon went to Purdue on short rest after a big emotional win over Ohio State, 6 days on a Friday night at Purdue, and they crushed them. Because that's a team that knows what they're about and believes in what they are. This team is not unlucky if this happened a 4th time in a row. This team is simply, straight up, unequivocally, mentally weak. They're mentally weak. That's it. That's the only explanation. It's not a matter of luck. It's not a matter even of preparation or ability or talent or anything like that. This team does not believe that they will win the football game. Whether they have a 14-point lead or a 4-point lead, they do not believe and play like a team that knows how to win because they do not know how to win. And it's like, okay, sometimes you don't know how to win because you're playing a team that does know how to win, like Penn State. Penn State is the ultimate team who just knows how to win these kinds of games because they only ever lose the big blowouts to Michigan and Ohio State. So, I get it. And Michigan, they usually win at the big house. So, I get it. They know how to win. Minnesota, I was more pissed about. But again, it's Minnesota has under PJ Fleck, has been a team that, is not completely lifeless. Mike Locksley is on death's door here at Maryland. Michael Locksley, yes. He's on death's door here at Maryland. He might not have a job next year, realistically. This Maryland team, not only do they not know how to win, and this is what really pisses me off. This Maryland team, what did we lay out in the preview? In the preview, we said the thing about this Maryland team is, and we recorded a USC wins if, but it got corrupted, so we couldn't put it up. But in our USC wins if video that we put on YouTube every week when it doesn't get corrupted, we said that USC needed to land the knockout blow because this Maryland team was susceptible to being knocked out. Because this Maryland team was playing Northwestern actually pretty close and was playing Indiana actually pretty close. And then in the second half or in the fourth quarter, things spiraled out of control for them. There was an interception or there was a fumble or there was something. And then it spiraled and Northwestern and Indiana took advantage of that and absolutely walloped them from there on out. Made it look like the game wasn't even half as close as it was going to be. So this is not a Penn State or a Michigan, teams that have learned over years to win close games. This is a team that has gotten blown out in every close game they've played. And yet, USC goes into this game, is on the verge of blowing them out, multiple times on the verge of blowing this open, going up by 3 touchdowns, and just getting to waltz back home to LA winners. And every single time, whether it's the offense or the defense or the special teams, they find a way to lose. And against Michigan, we gave them the grace of the defense. You know, this is still a defense that's learning, and they had those missed tackles, and you know, this is the learning curve. Against Penn State, it's, you know, learning curve that you miss a pass at the end. You miss a field goal, whatever. Like you can't lean on the learning curve anymore when it's against this Maryland team in this context, and they do it the way that they do it. And quite frankly, the defense wasn't good enough. USC has given up a touchdown in the final minute of the game, or in a critical touchdown in all 4 losses. 37 seconds left with Michigan. 57 seconds left with Minnesota. They give up in overtime the field goal, but it's, I think, 2 minutes left. Penn State scores. Maryland, 53 seconds left. The defense cannot get a stop in critical moments, and the offense, with 37 seconds left, with 56 seconds left, with 53 seconds left, with 2 minutes left, can't go down the field and score to save the defense. Or the defense can't get a stop to save the offense. It's every single aspect of this team does not know how to win because they are mentally weak. And where does that come from? I don't know. I just have the line from Remember the Titans going through my head. Attitude reflects leadership. Lincoln Riley has to own this record. We said from the beginning that we understood how USC got to where they were this year when they were at 3-3. I understood how it happened. But Lincoln Riley still had to own the 3-3. Well, he's got to own the 4-3 even worse. 3-4, whatever it is. Even worse. Because at a certain point, he doesn't know how to win a game when it's close. He doesn't know how to inspire this team to know how to win. And I made the comparison in the past. I'm a Liverpool fan. I just went through a decade of Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp walks into Liverpool, a Liverpool that had been perennially underachieving and basically down on itself because they weren't spending as much money as the big dogs, and that got into everybody in Liverpool's head, and so they decided, well, we're not spending as much as the Manchester Cities and the Manchester Uniteds and the Tottenhams and the whoever, so we're just going to be worse than them every year. And Jurgen Klopp walks into Liverpool, and the first thing he says is, I need to turn doubters into believers. I need to turn everyone at this club doubts that they can be great. And my first job is to turn doubters into believers. And let me tell you, he did that. Not just from the fans, but the players, because they went on to win games they had no business winning at the death. We called it Kloppage time because the stoppage time at the end of the game, Liverpool would score every single time to win games, to pull stuff out of their ass. It was Kloppage time because Klopp turned doubters into believers. At his very core, he was, for anyone who's watched Ted Lasso, he was a Ted Lasso figure in terms of the messaging that he built around the program that was so strong that everyone bought in and they rode it to victories. Against the odds, against whatever. Yes, I'm really talking soccer.
Yeah, just one Prem title, though.
Yes.
In the COVID year, which doesn't really count.
One Prem title and a Champions League victory and a bunch of second-place losses to a juggernaut that, you know, I can get into that. But why do I bring this up? Why do I bring this up? We said when Clay Helton was in charge that USC was in a state where it felt like the team in 2021 didn't believe that they could win games. That team was mentally broken by the time 2021 came around. And Lincoln Riley came to USC, and his first job was supposed to be to turn doubters into believers within his roster, within his fan base, within all those things. And he came in and he talked the talk, and he brought in the Heisman Trophy quarterback, and Caleb Williams was amazing, and that team won a bunch of games. And suddenly we were like, oh, if you just fix the defense, you're going to get it done. Fix the defense, you're just going to get it done. So there was a a growing belief. And then last year happens, and it's like this team reverted back to exactly what it was. A team that doesn't believe, doesn't know how, isn't prepared, isn't mentally tough enough to go out there and win the tough games. And at a certain point, Lincoln Riley is not doing what he needs to do behind the scenes within the culture to build a winning team. And I was willing to be the person who wanted to be optimistic and wanted to see the progression and did see the progression and saw, this is getting better. And if you just start to put these pieces together, it's going to come together. And this Maryland game was the game that was going to tell it all, right? It was going to tell us, is this team unlucky? Have they been growing over those weeks, even though they've lost those games? Are they ready to go on a run? And by losing this game, they've essentially told us they're not ready to go on a run. They're not ready to go on a run because Lincoln Riley, something about what he's doing is producing a team that gives up these leads and can't score when they need to and can't stop the other team when they need to. The defensive line can't buy a sack. The quarterback can't throw deep and throws an interception every game. That you cannot get away with this if you're going to be the quarterback who has a limited arm, and so you have to limit your offense, but you make up for it because you're cerebral and you fit the ball into the zone in the mid-range and you make the right decisions, all that kind of stuff. You don't get to be that quarterback if you're also throwing that interception. The wide receivers are still dropping passes at any moment. The offensive line is still making critical errors. They're better than they were, sure, but they're still making critical errors. And this team is just losing games. And this is the worst of them. People want to talk about Penn State being the worst loss of the season. It's not even close. Not even close. This is the worst loss of the season. This is the bad place.
Yeah, I think this is easily the worst loss of the season because this was the worst I think SC has played. In the Maryland game, SC loses that game, a game that they absolutely should have won, but they were unstoppable on offense until they beat themselves. 7-11 on third down, all those kind of things until they beat themselves. But they had success. They lost despite their success because they made critical errors. Penn State, they were up big. Again, they were playing they blew that. They were playing a top 4 team. I don't think the only thing that's redeeming about this game at all is that
there is nothing redeeming about this game.
There isn't. No. I feel bad for the defense because The third and fourth down stuff is incredible. Maryland had 2 third down conversions. They were 2 of 13. This legitimately might be the best third down defense in the country. Might be the best third down USC defense of your lifetime. They're very good on third downs. Legitimately. And it's the fourth downs that killed them. And I think that this underlines the excruciating part of this team is they get so close, they scratch on the door, they have it in their hand, and they just, they can't finish it. Kamari Ramsey makes a million great plays in this game, but misses a tackle on a fourth down.
And the fourth down stuff compounds itself because Maryland doesn't go for 6 fourth downs in this game if they haven't already gotten the ones they've gotten and seen how Penn State and Minnesota and Michigan all got fourth down success against this USC team. Mm-hmm. 3 of 6. You should never be giving up 3 fourth down conversions in a game, let alone having a team go for it 6 times.
Yeah.
That means they don't respect you as a defense. They don't give a crap that you stopped them on third down because they know they'll get it on fourth.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was SC's worst game of the season. The offense wasn't efficient enough. They had their moments, absolutely. The offense wasn't efficient enough. We knew that they were going to pass the ball a lot. This is a Maryland team that is really susceptible to giving up big plays, giving up a lot through the air. SC had 4 pass plays of 20-plus yards. This is a Maryland team that was allowing like 1 million of those coming into it. It didn't take advantage of those enough. There were a lot of one-on-one go ball opportunities. They were all there in the first half. SC didn't hit a single one. Miller Moss would underthrow when the receiver was open. He would, the receiver wouldn't make a play on it when the throw was there. Like there was no being on the same page. The running game, I thought was fine, but it wasn't as successful as it was the last 2 weeks. The best the running game looked was on that touchdown drive in the third quarter, right? When was it the third quarter? No, it was right before the half. The drive right before the half, Woody Marks had a couple of really nice runs into light boxes, which is what SC should be doing when they're succeeding with the run game after you throw the ball that much, is run into a light box. And SC had success then, but it wasn't something that they were able to get, allowed to be continue as the game went on. Miller Moss was extremely volatile in this game, had a couple of really great throws, and then his worst interception of the season is the pick that was practically a pick six. Long return, sets up a touchdown. The next play completely turns the game. Like you said, like SC had Maryland on the ropes, just needed to land the lockout punch, and they couldn't do it. SC scores on that drive and goes up 28-7. The game's over. You've killed the will of Maryland. You have full control of the game. You've bookended the half with scores. You've done everything to take control of the game, and SC could not do that.
According to ESPN Analytics, USC had a 97.2 win probability with 2 minutes and 8 seconds remaining.
Yeah, before the block. Yeah, because they make the field. I've seen a bunch of stuff in the chat that SC should have gone for it on that 4th down instead of kick the field goal. I understand the frustration. I understand people don't like when I say it's outcome bias, but that's outcome bias. That's hindsight. You go to make it 2 scores and you win the game by going up 2 scores. I know no one wants to settle for field goals, but like you win the game by making the field goal. They didn't make the field goal.
Well, the problem is that decision was always going to be results based. If USC goes for it on 4th down and doesn't get it, then everyone's talking about you should have taken the field goal.
Right.
It's the wrong answer is whatever one that loses you the game. But the fact is that USC should not have been in a position where a decision on 4th and 1
absolutely
was where the game was won or lost. Like this team. I don't even know. And like Cam Life in the chat says, they blocked it easy too. Like it wasn't even like how do you let a kick get blocked like that? How?
Yeah.
It was like there was no one on the line. And on the Miller Moss interception, or at least one of the bad throws, whatever it was, there was a defensive lineman just completely unblocked. Like how does that happen? I don't know how this kind of stuff happens, but it's continual mistakes that, I'll give you growing pains. I will give you that. I will give you grace on that. I will understand growing pains. But you're 7 games into the season. You don't get to, I'm not going to write things off as growing pains when you're doing it against frickin' Maryland.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. This was the game in which never should have gone the way it was. SC had a chance to go up 3 scores and end the game, and they didn't. And on
multiple occasions, by the way, not just they had the chance multiple times. They could have ended this game in the first half if they had any killer instinct.
Yeah, I think the frustrating part is that everything's the frustrating part, but you said that you didn't think that this team had the heart and the fire, or however you put it.
No, I don't.
You don't think
I think they have plenty of heart. Sure. I think this team has plenty of heart. If this team didn't have heart, they wouldn't be in the game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like
they are mentally weak. That is what I said.
Okay, the mentally weak thing, and I think it's frustrating because this is a team that like got punched in the face against Michigan and responded. They got punched in the face by Penn State coming back out of 14 points and responded. And I think this was the first time that we didn't see them respond at all. There is no sort of response.
Because they've been beaten down, because they, in their heads, were saying, here we go again, the same way that fans were saying, here we go again.
Right. Yeah.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point.
Yeah. We got a couple super chats, bunch of super chats. Want to get through those. Irvine Cattle Ranch says, no comment. Thanks to you guys. Well, thanks to you. Thanks to you for tuning in.
Cheers.
Master Sith 40 says Charlie Brown kicking the ball vibes. Yeah.
They also put in what a time to cut back on drinking.
Yeah. Tim,
I will tell you aside from USC making my life miserable, the worst thing about USC playing games in this afternoon slot, is that it's while I'm working. So when USC plays in like the late slot and it goes over past my shift, like I can crack open a beer and have a beer during the fourth quarter, just chill my nerves out. I can't do that when they're playing at this time.
Nothing's coming up, Alicia.
So I feel you, Master Sith.
Tim in LA says, here's an invoice for therapy services. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be good therapy today.
Yeah, I don't know how many people's therapist like does as much shouting as I do, but
yeah.
Hey, sometimes shock therapy is worth it.
Yeah. Johnny says, all caps, Lincoln Riley has been disguised by great quarterbacks. He's not an elite coach just because he has Heisman's. What will Riley say now? We're 2 to 3 plays from winning.
Can I address something too?
Yeah.
Specific to that chat. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah.
I saw somebody in the chat say that Riley is a worse coach than Clay Helton. And I think what pisses me off the most about where this team is and where the program is that, quite frankly, Lincoln Riley, like, I understood why Clay Helton was limited in what he was able to be as a head coach. Because as we talked about, Clay Helton was never an elite offensive coordinator. He was never an elite quarterback.
Coach Helton for this?
He was never an elite quarterback coach. He was never an elite assistant coach. He was a nice guy. And kids liked him. And that was the best thing that he did.
Right.
Lincoln Riley is legitimately an incredible offensive mind with the ability to get immense production out of his offenses and his quarterbacks, usually. So the fact that this is happening now, it's like it's worse on Lincoln Riley. Like there is less of an excuse for Lincoln Riley to be this bad.
Yeah.
There is, it defies logic for Lincoln Riley to be this bad at this point.
It also allows the whole disingenuous, well, Clay Helton's record was like, people hated Clay Helton too. So like, I don't think that that's packing the punch that it should, but it speaks to the volumes of, how frustrating and unacceptable it is to be 5-9 in the last 14 games.
As Sunbun says, I think aptly in the chat, Clay was fantastically mediocre, and that's why he's successful at Georgia Southern.
Yeah.
Because it's okay for Georgia Southern to be mediocre, and that's one medium. We called it the medium place that the Riley the Helton era. The problem with the Riley era is that this offense and this team should be like way better, because Lincoln Riley is Lincoln Riley is capable of fielding an offense that is significantly better than this.
Right. And you and I were watching the game, and I think I said in the third quarter that I seriously can't understand if this is the worst bad team I've ever seen or the best worst team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The best bad team, whatever it is, right? Because like, and this is, I think, the frustrating part, before the Maryland loss, but like, I think that SC has done so many of the things that are hard to do. I think it's hard to force teams to get to third down and stop them on third down. There's a reason that not many defenses are that good on third down. That's hard to do. But then they aren't able to make the plays on fourth down, right? It's hard against Minnesota, for instance. It's hard to have the offensive success to go up and down the field at will. But they don't score the points because they make mistakes and don't finish off those drives, right? Like, it's like SC has a knack for doing the hard thing, which is playing well most of the time, but not all the time. And I think that those arguments, I think, could have absolutely have been made for, the first 6 games, and we talked about it. Like, there's a lot to like about how the program is going if you just didn't look at the scoreboard. And obviously you can't eliminate the scoreboard, but like, it feels like the team is moving in the right direction. And then the Maryland game happens where, like I said, you can't point to any of those things because the offensive success was not really there. The defense forced a bunch of fourth downs, but they didn't stop enough of them.
My problem with the offensive success in this game, it was there.
But it wasn't the same as Minnesota.
No. Because USC executed against Minnesota in a lot of different ways, certainly in the ground game that sort of made the offense move better. But what's really frustrating about this game is those deep shots that we predicted in the middle of the week.
They were there.
They were all there.
Yeah.
And this is where, I come back to, I have been a defender of Miller Moss. I have been somebody who believed that Miller Moss's understanding of the offense, his cerebral nature, was enough to keep this offense going.
Yeah.
And you see that in some of those throws he makes over the middle of the field, tearing up a zone, some of the throws he makes short. He does a lot of things great. But this offense is so limited by his inability to push the ball down the field because USC scores 3 or 4 long touchdowns if those balls get put where the receiver doesn't have to come back for it.
Yeah.
And like that limiting factor is I could live with if he wasn't also throwing an interception that effectively brings Maryland back into the game.
Right.
And throwing a pick 6 against Michigan that effectively puts them back on the front foot. Like, they're momentum-killing turnovers that Miller Moss is committing every week. Mm-hmm. And I want him to be a successful starting quarterback at USC. I want him to be fully formed and lead the team in the way that you hope he can lead the team. But one game with an interception and a sack fumble, okay, it happens. I get it. 2 games with an interception and a sack fumble, yeah, that can't be happening, bud. Can't be happening. 3 games with a backbreaking interception. I'm sorry. My biggest reason for not putting Jaden Mayava in the game is because, to me, if Jaden Mayava had enough command over this offense to trust for Lincoln Riley to trust him in this offense, I think he would already be playing, or he would already have a package or something like that built for him. And the fact that he doesn't, I don't know, that gives me a little bit of a hint. But if you're holding back Jaden Mayava, who we all agree is a more dynamic quarterback than Miller Moss,
dynamic in terms of prototype, in archetype.
Yeah, I mean, he can run. He would open up the read. I mean, all of the things that people have been saying for weeks that are valid ideas, but they ignore the concept of, can Jaden Mayava operate the offense functionally without turning the ball over, or while the protection breaks down, can he handle?
Would it be a net gain?
Would it be a net gain? Because can he handle the pressure of an offensive line that is as unreliable as this one is? And I still don't know if he is capable of those things.
Right.
But when Miller Moss has games like this, he opens the door for this conversation.
Yeah.
From even someone like me who wants nothing more than to see Miller Moss succeed and lead this team, and felt like he absolutely, in this game, for instance, even though you don't hit those deep balls, he can still lead this team to a relatively easy victory if he makes the plays that need to get made, or doesn't make the plays that get made.
Yeah, I think that with Miller Moss, I think things would be easier if he was better, and it would be easier if he was worse.
Yes.
Because the interception is bad. Like, that's probably his worst throw of the season, undoubtedly.
Most costly.
And super costly. Yeah.
Because you give Maryland belief and momentum.
Yeah, when they could have killed off the game. Yeah. On the flip, and so like I think you can sit here and say, well, he doesn't handle pressure well, and some of those interceptions are because of pressure. Yes. But then you see plays where, like, there's a throw to Deuce Robinson where he steps up and he evades a guy, and, like, he can do it. It's not like he can't do that. It's the inconsistency that I think is absolutely a problem. I do think that, if he was a little bit better on the deep ball, they probably hit one of those deep shots earlier in the game in the first half, and maybe can add a touchdown there. Yeah, maybe that changes. I don't think that this loss is entirely on Miller Moss. I don't think any of them have been, because every single one of these losses, there's like 4 things you could and this is why, like, I'm frustrated with the idea of, like, oh, SC is, X amount of plays away, because while that's true, and it's that's why it burns, because it's true, right? Like, there's also like 4 of those plays in every game. Yeah, if any 4 of these plays change, if Kamari Ramsey makes the tackle on the 4th down, if the kick isn't blocked, if there's like all these if plays, and they lose all of these if plays, and so it's not just Miller Moss. It's like, sometimes it's your best players that don't have the moment there. And I feel bad for Kamari Ramsey because he had a great game.
Yeah, but Miller Moss isn't on the field when the defense gives up, a million 4th down conversions like they have all year.
Yeah.
Miller Moss, I mean, again, I know, you all heard, I am frustrated with Miller Moss where we're at right now. I'm just really frustrated with the offense. They should be better than they are. Having said that, USC goes into the final minute of play in just about all of these losses with a lead. So, like, yes, Miller Moss is limiting USC's ability to put the game out of reach, but you still go into the final minute of the game with a lead, and you give it up every single time. So it's not just Miller Moss; it is the defense. There's a lot of guys on the defense. And a lot of guys on the defense are playing really well. It's the same thing. Like, that's the frustrating thing. If they were all just worse, it would be easier, because then we could say, well, they all just suck.
Yeah.
But Kamari Ramsey's really good, and Easton Mascarenas-Arnold is out there making plays, and Mason Cobb is making plays.
At least they had sacks today.
Well, they had 2. Two sacks, both from, what was it, a linebacker and a safety?
And a corner.
A corner, yes.
Yeah.
So USC
3.
USC has 2 sacks on blitzes. They send a bunch more blitzes that don't get anywhere near the quarterback. And still 7 games into the season, 7 games, folks. That's 28 quarters.
2 sacks, by the way.
2 sacks this season.
I thought there were 3. Wasn't there an
No,
EMA one? There was Greedy Vance and then Kamari Ramsey at the end. Right?
Did they call that like a throw? An incomplete?
No, because they ruled it that he was down. Either way, whatever. To your point, whatever
it was. We are 7 games into the season, and still a defensive lineman who started the game for USC has yet to log a sack.
Yeah,
not an end, not a DT.
Yeah.
There are 4 of them out there every game. One of the starting 4, and they have changed, but the starting 4 have yet to record a sack.
Yeah, I put on Twitter, on the Rant Line Twitter account, that Jamil Muhammad is Wile E. Coyote at this point.
He has never met a sack attempt that he couldn't find a way to whiff on.
It's incredible. He reminds me, this was a criticism that I think that we talked about with Christian Rector. But Christian Rector was one of those guys who would either whiff on a sack or he'd get the sack, and then he'd have a half where he had 3.5 tackles for loss.
Christian Rector would end up with 6 sacks a season and
boom and bust,
like 10 would-be sacks that he missed, but at least he was getting the 6.
Right, and Scott Felix was a guy who was in position a lot of the times and couldn't make the sack, and I think Jamil Muhammad is someone who I think literally to this point has did he register a tackle for loss in this game? Let's see. No, he only got 1 tackle in the whole game. How? He was around the ball the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Another more super chats. Jimmy Goodman with a couple of super chats. Cheers. Hey guys, love the show. Just want to say that since coming to campus in 2016, this is the most comical loss I've ever seen. We blew up the pack for this in all caps. Yeah, I think this is up there with DJ O'Mary. It's up there with Nelson Aguilar stepping out of bounds.
This is worse. This is worse than either of those.
I have a hard time disagreeing. Yeah,
because here's the thing: when Nelson Aguilar steps out of bounds against Utah, that's not a bad Utah team. That Utah team is competitive. Sure, yeah. The Jail Mary ASU team, I can't remember entirely, but I don't feel like that was a particularly bad team either. What did their record finish as? I don't know if I can pull it up right now.
ASU just guessed 7-5. No
problem. Yeah, I think they were a middling Pac-12 team, but a competitive one, I suppose.
Yeah.
This Maryland team was there for the taking and will get taken by a hell of a lot more teams for the rest of the season because there is a blueprint to beat them and beat them badly. Mm-hmm. And USC couldn't get it done, and USC gave them new life. Yeah. And that is a distinctly USC thing.
Yeah. Up there with the 96 UCLA game, kind of.
I wasn't around for that, but.
Yeah. SC blew a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter, but we won't get into that. Nice Guy says, welcome to reality, Alicia. We tried to tell you last week, but you decided to rage on SC fans instead. Glad you have seen the light. One of us.
Hey, I said before the game that this is a make or break game for USC. And I said on that Carcast that if USC loses to Maryland or to one of the games that goes beyond Maryland, that I will change my tune. And I will eat crow about USC not being what I thought they could be. And yes, absolutely, I was wrong. I thought USC was unlucky, and they are just mentally weak. They are what they are. And they almost got Penn State, but they are an almost team. That is what they are. And I hate to be wrong. I think I think most people would love for me to have been right. But unfortunately, this team didn't come prepared to back me up. And yeah, I eat that crow. I was overly optimistic, and I will straight up I will continue to be overly optimistic because I am a perpetual sucker. I am a sucker. That's who I am. But I'm gonna say this, and I don't know who this Twitter account is. I don't know if this is a legitimate Twitter account, but there is a Twitter KMayava20, Kahia Mayava, posts a picture with Jaden and who I believe his parents are, and it says QB1. So yeah, that's fun going around Twitter.
Mike, super chat from Mike Iyer. Thank you. You're the best. I want to hear rage from Lincoln Riley. Says, Mike, you need to be critical of everybody, players, coaches, even the goddamn horse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's increasingly where I'm at, and I hate this is where I'm at. Because quite frankly, Lincoln Riley's not going anywhere. So everybody needs to hope that it plays out in the way that I'll play out two scenarios, but one more positive, one more negative. But frankly, there's years of this to go. I had a thought about Pete Carroll when he came to USC, and it was the narrative on Pete Carroll when he came to USC and had all that success was always Pete Carroll failed in the NFL, and he needed to fail in the NFL. He needed to have a dark night of the soul. And he found that book about tennis, and he read it, and it changed his mindset, and it sort of opened him up to become the great coach that he became because he experienced that failure and then pulled himself out of it and found the influence that he needed to pull himself out of it. After Pete Carroll leaves, USC hires Lane Kiffin, who was a young coach, brash, immature.
Failed in the NFL.
Failed in the NFL, but not badly enough, I guess. Again, still too young. His failures were too young. And he comes to USC, and he fails. And his dark night of the soul happens because he fails at USC. Pete Carroll's dark night of the soul happened because he failed in the NFL. Lane Kiffin's dark night of the soul happened because he fails at USC, and he goes, and his version of the, what is it, the art of tennis, or whatever it's called,
the inner game of
the
tennis?
Inner game of tennis.
Yeah.
His version of that is going to coach under Nick Saban. And working under Nick Saban is where he learns how to be a better head coach. And he goes on to be a better head coach than he was at USC. Steve Sarkisian takes over at USC. He is 7-win Sark at Washington.
Did go 9-3 last year.
That's true. A clearly capable coach with flaws and personal demons. And he comes to USC, and those personal demons catch up with him. And he is fired, rightfully, for that happening.
Yeah.
And his dark night of the soul comes after being fired at USC because of his alcoholism. And he goes to the NFL and fails again, and then ends up at, again, Alabama with Nick Saban, where he learns from his failures and learns how to win, and goes to Texas and is a better head coach now at Texas than he was at USC. My fear is that USC has become a place where coaches go to die, where good coaches go to die and then be reborn somewhere else. So Lincoln Riley comes to USC, and the job is too big. The rebuild is too big. He's not suited for it, blah, blah, blah. And let's say inevitably he gets fired whenever that happens, or he willingly leaves for the NFL. He sees that Cliff Kingsbury takes over as offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders and is having a lot of fun doing it because he's a great offensive mind and he can get the job done even if he's not a great head coach. And maybe Lincoln Riley says, okay, I'll go be an NFL offensive coordinator. He would get hired in a second, whatever. His failure at USC potentially puts him on a path for growth. And then when he comes back and gets his next opportunity to be a head coach, he'll probably be a much better head coach because he's learned life. The best case scenario for USC is that this is his dark night of the soul, that he looks around at at the mental weakness of his team, and he goes and has a nice long chat with Pete Carroll, and he sits on the therapy couch and unburdens himself to Pete Carroll or whoever it needs to be, and they unlock whatever it is that is holding him back as a head coach. And when he emerges from that darkness retreat, as Aaron Rodgers would call it, that he emerges a better head coach who is more capable of leading this USC program. My worry is that thus far, the recent examples are you come to die at USC and then you go off and find greener pastures somewhere else.
Well, I think the Dark Night of the Soul, is that what you said?
Yeah.
What is that from, by the way? It sounds like Poe wrote it or something.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Where is it from?
Sounds cool. It sounds like Like you put X in front of it and after it, and then it's a AIM screen name?
The Dark Night of the Soul is a phase of passive purification of the spirit in the mystical development, as described by the 16th century Spanish mystic and poet St. John of the Cross in his treatise Dark Night, or Noche Oscura, a commentary on his poem with the same name.
Wow.
La Noche Oscura del Alma, Dark Night of the Soul.
No,
in modern times,
no más español.
No, that's Latin.
Okay.
Maybe it was Spanish. In modern,
you said Spain.
Yeah, he was Spanish. In modern times, the phrase "Dark Night of the Soul" is used to describe a crisis of faith or a difficult, painful period in one's life.
I think that moment, and this is another reason why this season is frustrating, is that I think the Dark Night of the Soul for Lincoln Riley was last year bottoming out.
Yeah,
and having to reconcile with, you know what, I did wait too long on Alex Grinch, or I shouldn't have brought him to SC and all that stuff. And I think that he went out there this past off season and he did so much effort on the defense. And so and the defense is better. The defense is all better. We all see it. There's a lot of playmakers on this defense. There's not enough playmakers. Juan Ramsey, very good. Jalen Smith, very good. We got a super chat from Night Sky that says, underestimate what Gentry meant to this defense. Yes, Gentry is one of those playmakers. And I think this defense...
Well, this defense is down. I mean, to be fair to this defense, they're down...
They're down a lot
Gentry,
of dudes.
They're down Anthony Lucas,
Bear Alexander, yeah.
I get it, but at the same time, they weren't down a lot of those players against Michigan. It's still the same thing.
No, I agree. But what I'm saying is, Riley put a lot of effort into fixing this defense, and it worked. And he's still losing games, but he's losing games differently than SC lost last year, for the most part, even though I think this game is the most similar to last year. We talked about it in the preview. SC has struggled on the road. There are a lot of games that had no business being close. This was one of them. SC just struggling against an underdog in the way that they are. There's no business there, which, of course, leads us to talking about Underdog Fantasy. You guys, it's football season, which is the perfect time to join Underdog Fantasy. That means you got plenty of opportunities to join the more than 1 million fans that play Underdog Fantasy, win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing whether you think your favorite players will go higher or lower than their stat projections. I went on there earlier this week. We were talking about in the preview about Saquon Barkley going back home to face the Giants. I'm going higher. I'm going higher. There's 80 something yards. I'm going to go higher on that stat projection. I'm feeling it. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward and signing up even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple to use mobile app or underdogfantasy.com. Sign up with promo code Reign of Troy. That's promo code Reign of Troy, all one word, REIGNOFTROY. Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Reign of Troy to claim your new customer special of a free pick, and your deposit offer must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. And in New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Alicia, a lot more to talk about SC losing yet again, 29-28. We got a super chat from SJ, good old SJ from Santa Barbara. How about that punting? I think we need to really commend the Trojans. I know that usually when you're 3-4, the punting game is something that goes strong. SC is an unorthodox 3-4, but still, Eddie Zaplitsky, 47.8 yards average on his punts, long at 53, 3 of the 5 went inside the 20. There was one 50-yarder, and one of them went inside the 5. As our friend Larry David would say.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
He is pretty damn good. I mean, I said on Twitter he's the MVP of the defense at this point. He's basically the only thing that has consistently gone right the entire way through the season. I don't think there's been a bad Eddie Saplicki moment this season, and you can't say that about pretty much anybody. Maybe Woody Marks.
Oh God, Alicia.
I know I just jinxed it.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, like, what is going to be? How is SC going to lose to Rutgers? Like what is going to be the
block punt? Punt return for a touchdown?
Is it a blocked punt in the final minute? Is that what it is? Oh no. Yeah. That's the crazy thing too. Is like it literally has been something different. They're all in the last minute, but like they're all slightly different. It was the run they couldn't stop against Michigan. It was the sneaks they couldn't stop against Minnesota. It was Tyler Warren and company they couldn't stop against Penn State, or there was an interception, obviously.
And this
blocked field goal here.
No, but also like Edwards was freaking pulling these miraculous tosses out of his ass, like running away from pressure and just sort of flinging it to Ty Felton. And it's like, what? It was at that point that I was like, yeah, USC's cooked, man. Quarterback out here looking like freaking prime Caleb Williams with the miracle shit. Like, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what there's at some point I sort of understand the defense just going like, are you freaking kidding me with this? Are you kidding me with this?
You talk about, crazy plays. How about Jacoby Lane?
That one-handed catch
incredible.
Is insane.
Yeah.
It is insane.
I thought for sure it was an incomplete pass.
I thought for sure. I was looking
all
for
of a sudden he starts celebrating. I'm like, what's he celebrating for? There's no flag. Like what?
I was looking for the flag. Like I was like, okay, that looked kind of like pass interference. Are they going to throw the flag? And then he gets up and he's got the ball in his hand. I'm like, what in the hell? How did he pull that off? There's a great picture of it on Twitter too. If you go look for it. Makai Lemon is a dude.
Great game.
He leads the team in receiving in this game and looks like the guy who's going to lead the team in receiving going forward because he is just a dude. It's so great to see Makai Lemon coming along the way that he is.
I can only get a comp. It's not a literal comp. Darius Rogers.
I like
because Darius Rogers was a dude who was so good on third down. Like that was his thing. He was Mr. Third Down. Makai Lemon has 8 catches today. Only 2 came on third down. It felt like more than that.
But it feels like he's always putting USC in manageable situations on second down by catching the ball, running. He's hard to bring down. He's so fluid. I don't know if we said this on a podcast, but I think there's been a comparison to Amon-Ra St. Brown, which, again, it's not exactly the same comparison, but, like, he carries himself like Amon-Ra St. Brown in the sense of he knows, like, you can tell he just knows the game so well. He knows where to find space in the zone. When the ball is sent his way, he catches the ball just sure-handed as all hell. He turns upfield and makes it difficult for the other team. Hell of a receiver. Excited to see what he continues to do as he continues to grow. And one of the reasons and what's really frustrating about this team, about the mental issue that this team has, is like there are a lot of reasons to be really positive about the future of this roster. The problem is that right now it's hard to like bet on this team coming through when you need them to come through.
Yeah.
Because they continually don't. Because they continually just don't. They crumble. They crumble at the worst possible moment, and it's happened every time they've lost. And
Yeah,
it's not a coincidence.
Ford Dog in the chat says sunshine pumping big time. I don't think you guys actually know what sunshine pumping is.
No one.
Saying that Makai Lemon had a good game is not sunshine pumping. Like, I know that I shouldn't like put.
You should absolutely not put any.
I know it's
stake
imposter
in that
syndrome stuff to
comment.
like read into this stuff, but like it is the bane of my existence. That if you're not sitting here and saying that everyone should be fired, that you're sunshine, that's not how it works.
I would not acknowledge.
We're not in a black and white world where
Michael,
what are we doing here?
I would not acknowledge that comment when we've literally spent the last hour talking about how this team is mentally weak. Like don't even give credence to that. Rama Murdy asks, at what point do we chalk up the losses to youth and inexperience? I mean,
there's part of them
offensively. I think if you wanted to point to youth and inexperience, you can probably do so most clearly with the offense, considering the receiving core is pretty youthful, the offensive line is quite youthful, and the quarterback is, this is his 7th start. He's a first-year starter, and first-year starters. There's a reason why returning quarterbacks are such a big plus for any team because, growing pains happen with quarterbacks. I don't think that excuses the degree to which Miller Moss hasn't come through for USC when he's needed to in now multiple games. You guys heard me. I was sort of more shruggy about the missed throw. Like he's got to make that throw against Penn State.
Yeah.
But the fact that he didn't, I didn't think that was like a knock against his ability to lead the team. But this game, it undermines my shrug about that. Like you reinforce these things when it happens game after game after game. And there's a threshold at which I can no longer hold that opinion and I have to sort of reevaluate. So but at the same time, like we do have to acknowledge offensive line, youthful, wide receivers, youthful, quarterback, not youthful, but inexperienced. So
yeah,
it's tough. And to be fair to Miller Moss, I think you see in the NFL and across college football where quarterback play is generally pretty terrible. That quarterbacks, one of the reasons why it's so important to protect quarterbacks is that when they get hit over and over and over and over and over again, I think of like David Carr. Mm-hmm. You think of guys like Sam Darnold. We all saw what a great quarterback Sam Darnold was, but when you're getting demolished in a Jets offense, eventually your confidence starts to waver. And eventually you start to, I don't know that Miller Moss is seeing ghosts, but I do think it's clear that he is more impacted by the pass rush in terms of making him nervous and missing throws than he was early in the season. And I think that's partially just a reflection of he's taken a hell of a lot of hits, more hits than any quarterback should take.
Yeah.
And it does eventually get to you.
It's hard. We got a tweet during the game that was like, Miller Moss he's not good unless he sets his feet, gets protection, and is able to have an open receiver. Like, yeah, that's how quarterbacking works, right? Like, that's hard for everybody. I do think that, putting Miller against Caleb from last year is unfair, because Caleb was the best quarterback SC's ever had, ever. Yeah. And you're never going to have anyone as close to that until you have another one of those. But there's a million places where Miller Moss can get better, right? There was a question in the chat that I missed it. I didn't see who said. There's a million comments about should Miller Moss come back next year? It's from Nangang.
Yeah.
Which I hope is a Doughboys reference. I really hope that's a Doughboys reference. I mean, it's too early to tell that sort of thing.
The real question is,
it matters. Like, how does the season end?
It matters where USC goes from here. Does USC stick with Miller Moss as the starting quarterback, and the season plays out the way, however it's going to play out, and then he's going to be in a quarterback battle with Jaden Mayava, or do they make a quarterback change and hand the ball off to Jaden Mayava, and then Jaden Mayava wins a few games, and then suddenly it's like, well, no, Miller Moss is going to go transfer because that's what you do when you lose your job. Like,
right.
I think a lot depends on what USC does at quarterback, and I think that Lincoln Riley has stood behind Miller Moss publicly. I also don't think the conversation about whether or not Moss should be benched for Mayava has done anything for his confidence, Miller's confidence. But the question is whether or not they make a change at this point. And Kenny in the chat asked, what's the point of starting Mayava now? The season's over. Well, the point of starting Mayava now, let's have this conversation. Number one, USC is 3-4, and Lincoln Riley cannot afford to miss a bowl game because you just can't lose this many games. You just don't want to lose games, and you go with the quarterback that you think will help you win the most games. And if Riley determines it's not Miller Moss, and it is Jaden Mayava, then you make that change. Number two, Jaden Mayava, if he is your quarterback of the future, and you don't necessarily want to plan to have Julian Lewis start as a true freshman, which I don't know, who knows, maybe, then the 5 games that Jaden Mayava could potentially start, 6 if USC does make the bowl game.
Yeah.
Those could have immense value to get some of the growing pains that Miller Moss has been experiencing in his first year as a starter, to work out the wrinkles and give Jaden Mayava some, as Clay Helton would put it, experience with live bullets flying. Mm-hmm. And the value on that could be huge.
Drive it like you stole it too.
Yeah. I think that
SC doesn't control their own destiny, though.
No. Is there an argument for Lincoln stringing this out one more game and no, because they already played Mayava. So again, the redshirt thing is not really in play, but who knows? I think that if Lincoln Riley, if Jaden Mayava is not completely inept in practice and doesn't know the playbook and all that kind of stuff, I'd give him a shot at this point, because Miller's confidence looks shot. The team's confidence looks shot. Sometimes you have to make a change even if it's not fair. And, I think we talked about this in 2016. I didn't think that the Max Brown change was particularly fair to Max Brown.
Right.
But the change to Sam Darnold sparked the team. People wanted to see that spark given after the Penn State game or earlier, and I would have said it's way too early for that. But at this point, it's not too early for that. You're 3-4. Miller Moss is 3-4 as a starter. Like, eventually those losses
4-4.
4-4 as a starter. Eventually those losses, especially when they've been by such close margins,
wins and loss, as Mina Kimes would say, wins and losses are not a quarterback stat.
Yeah.
But
preventing. My issue with Miller Moss is that wins and losses are not a quarterback stat. However, Miller Moss is now 1-3 in games where he had the opportunity. Maybe it's even 1-4 in games he had the opportunity as the quarterback to go out and win the game, and he did not. Because he had the ball at the end in each one of those games, because the defense gave up the touchdown. But
in some way or another, yeah. I agree. This is if you're going to make the change, this is the time to make the change. It's like when you pull a goalie in hockey, there's not much to lose, all that stuff. I agree. At the same time, this isn't a video game. I think trying Mayava assumes that Lincoln Riley has confidence in him, that everything, and again, I think this whole thing is very unfair. We've said this a million times. These conversations are unfair to Jaden Mayava, because by sitting here and being skeptical, it makes it sound like, some knock on Jaden Mayava, and it's not. But if Lincoln Riley thought that Jaden Mayava could do it, Lincoln Riley will make the call. See, if he makes that call on Monday because it's a short week and they have to go, get ready for Rutgers on a short week, then they will do it. If not, then they won't.
I would advise,
but like that's not the reason SC is not winning games. But the problem is SC's not winning games because, to go back to the theory we talked, the progress bar theory, right? Like they're close on, I mean, a million different aspects. And if they were just if the quarterback play was a little bit better, yeah, they're probably 7-0.
Well, so
if the defensive line was a little bit better, they're 7-0. If this was better, if that was better.
So Miller Moss is not losing games for USC directly because it's team losses, but he's also not going out there and winning games, and that's
for sure.
And that is a problem.
Did Matt Barkley?
No, and again, I would caution people who think that there is a chance that Jaden Maiava is the Sam Darnold and he comes in and he's awesome.
Maybe.
But there's also a chance that
I don't know.
that USC makes that change and it ends up like Texas is in the situation Texas is currently in, where they bench Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning goes 1 for 4 for 8 yards and doesn't do anything with the ball. Or it's a situation like Oklahoma did with Jackson Arnold, who they benched and they put in Michael Harris, I think was his name, and he was just as bad because the issues went beyond the quarterback is sort of the issue. My concern is that USC's issues still begin and end for me with an offensive line that you never know whether or not they're going to hit their block or not. But I do think at this point, I would have a look at Maiava. I would just have a look. Because at this point, having a look is not really going to hurt you too badly. But Fighting on MC does make a good question in the chat. Would they change a quarterback with a short week for the next game? USC plays on Friday this coming week. I highly doubt there will be a quarterback change.
Yeah. We did get a super chat from Murray. Didn't forget you. Murray says, is this correct? We're 6-9 under Riley since the Notre Dame loss, including the Holiday Bowl win. No, it's 5-9. It's 5-9. It's worse than that. And I think Andrew in the chat, was it Andrew that pointed out that, a couple of those could have been losses too. The Cal game, SC probably should have lost the Cal game. And the LSU game certainly could have gone the other way too. It could be a world where SC is 3-11 in the last 14. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy
not good
to think about.
It's not good enough. And again, this is where I think Riley can't shake this anymore.
Yeah.
Because USC lost.
It can't keep being something else.
It can't keep, like last year, that losing streak at the end was the defense. And trust me, we all know it was. But you can't then transition into this season and it's not that same defense. The defense is significantly better, right, and you're still losing the games. So like it's a mentality thing. You can't lose this many games in your life. Like, you think about that, Michael. Like, you and I podcast after every game.
Yeah,
we do a podcast and a Fallout episode. We do 2 episodes, probably close to 4 hours of podcasting on every single game. So
at least, yeah.
In the last calendar year, we have podcasted about 9 losses.
Something like that.
And how many wins? Let's see.
5. They're 5-9.
5 wins.
Yeah.
We have podcasted almost twice as much about losses as we have wins.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good. It's absolutely not good. I will go to one thing. In 2019, before the season, and there was the big quarterback battle between JT Daniels, Jack Sears, and Matt Fink. What did I say back then?
The quarterback.
No, sorry, and Slovis.
Yeah, the quarterback shouldn't matter.
Yeah, I said the quarterback doesn't matter in an offense like an air raid offense, because at the time I cited like Texas Tech and Washington State, like they'd have a new quarterback that you never heard of in your life, and they'd come out and Gardner Minshew, and suddenly he's incredible. And Connor Holiday, suddenly he's incredible. And every single Texas Tech quarterback, was productive. There's a big part of me that, thinks about with the SC offense, the Lincoln Riley offense, that the quarterback doesn't matter in the sense of this offense is going to succeed or fail based on how everything else works. A good quarterback obviously can, take you a little bit higher or whatever, but like, I don't think it's, and so to me, this is the argument for like, I don't think benching Moss is going to change anything, but also you could easily say that, no, that's the argument to actually make the change. What I'm saying is I don't think there's going to be a big change no matter who the quarterback is. I really don't. I don't think it's a big change. So if you want to make that chance for the whatever percentage chance that Maeva is the Deshaun Watson, is the Sam Darnold, or whoever else got named the starting quarterback in the middle of the season and then rode his team to a bunch of victories, then go ahead. Like I said, you're 3-4, nothing can hurt, but I don't know that there's anything to gain there. And I think that like when that's the conversation, I just it's tiring because there's a bunch of things wrong with this team that it's a distraction to just sit here and be like, oh, it's the quarterback for sure. Like
I think changing the quarterback doesn't instantly save this team, but changing the quarterback, you who knows? Maybe that's the spark. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes something needs to change, and it can be unfair to somebody like Miller Moss.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need a change, whether it's usually the quarterback is the most symbolic change that you can make, but like, swapping out somebody.
Yeah. Tamale Tom in the chat says that Miller Moss is a knockoff of Keene Slovis. I mean,
he's a similar profile quarterback. It's not totally incorrect.
I see a lot there because.
But by the way, like Keene Slovis in 2019 was kick-ass. So like,
this is the thing about Keene Slovis regressed, game after game, year after year. But like Keene Slovis and Miller Moss are very similar in which they've had very good highs, a fair share of lows. Keene Slovis had more lows as it went on. Absolutely.
Right. Well, he played more games. Like his
sure,
his
and
first
he
7
regressed.
games were.
He regressed every offseason.
Yeah. No, the comparison to Keene Slovis is apt because, like Miller Moss, Keene Slovis was not a big-armed quarterback. What he did well was navigating pressure and delivering balls accurately in the mid-range and basically running the offense well. And he did a very good job of that in 2019 until something happened to his elbow or something happened to him. I just still don't know. Yeah. But that's where Miller Moss is, and it sucks. But I want to also highlight something else that Tamale Tom said. What sucks is I'm going to be right here hanging on every play Friday night. That is correct. Yeah. Because we're all suckers, Tamale Tom.
You're all suckers.
We are all suckers.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is what's going to happen. Everybody that's in the chat that's mad that we're sunshine pumping, we'll be back here on Wednesday when we're previewing the thing, and upset and say, and we're doom and gloomers if we say that SC's not going to win by 20. That's how it works, usually.
Well, what was I saying to you while we were watching this game and things started to go downhill? I said that basically, even if USC pulls out the win, which obviously they didn't, but at the time it was still possible. Even if USC pulls out the win, the crappy thing about this game is that this told me that this is just what this team is. And even if they win today, the next 4 games are simply going to be this. Rutgers just lost to UCLA, and still USC is going to be. It's going to come down to the final minute against Rutgers. And Nebraska just got their butt kicked by Indiana, and it's still going to come down to the final minute.
Indiana's
against
good, man.
Nebraska. And Indiana's very good and has been shaky all season, and still it's going to come down to the final minute, and also they're going to lose that because we're going to be there. All of these games, it's just USC is just always going to be in a situation where maybe they'll win, maybe they'll lose, maybe the bounce of a ball will end up going in their favor one of these times.
Yeah.
But so far it hasn't, and this is just what this team is. And when you are this kind of team, you
after
you live and die by it.
After the Minnesota game, we got the Rotbots were saying maybe this is a team that could lose every game, and we were like, yeah, but they also could win every game too. Like it could go either way. Like both of those things are 1,000% true, right? The Penn State game showed that SC can beat a top 5 team. This game shows that they can lose to a team that hasn't won in a month, and the Solid Verbal has a phrase where they say that a team can be opponent snobs. An opponent snob is, I think Oregon this year was opponent snob, struggling to Idaho, but then beating Ohio State, right? Not like playing with your food, beating the teams that you should, that are winning the hard games, but like struggling in the games that aren't that. And I think there's some merit to that being SC's issue, but it's not the case because SC does the same no matter who the opponent is. In that case, SC is opponent. They're the complete opposite of opponent snobs. They are non-discriminatory against opponents, right? Because all the opponents are the same.
Yeah.
SC could
Penn State and Maryland.
SC could play Ohio State or week.
Yeah.
And it's going to the last minute.
Thing.
Yeah. And it's going to the last minute, deep in your heart of hearts. It would. Because that's what this team is. Yeah. All right. Any more thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
It just sucks to lose. I don't like losing. I don't like coming on here and doing a podcast when USC is lost.
Yeah.
I understand why a lot of friends of ours were talking during this game about how they do not intend to watch any more USC this year. It sucks because this is where we were in 2021. Mm-hmm. And I did not think we would be here in 2024.
Hey.
And I don't know what to say. Sports suck.
I hope sports continue to suck for you tomorrow. But because...
Hey, transference from a USC perspective benefits Liverpool when USC loses. I think Chelsea wins in a landslide.
Yeah. No, and the I think my biggest frustration is Michael Lance hits that field goal, and then the game ends SC winning 31-22. I would look like a genius. My prediction for the game was 30-21. It's the same score, just up a point for each team.
Yeah, but you're acting like Maryland wouldn't have scored. So.
Oh no, that's fair. But Alicia, in our season predictions episode, who picked Maryland would beat SC?
You did.
Who did it? Yeah, that's
good call.
Sunshine Pumper me. Yeah, I called it the whole time, guys. Called it the whole time. Yeah. All right, that's gonna wrap us up. Tomorrow we hope the Blue Guys do all the winning, of course, Chelsea and the Mets. And until then, we will be back Monday to talk more about this game. And we'll be back Wednesday to preview Rutgers. As always, subscribe to us here on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. We appreciate you guys. And we'll see you next time. Till then, see ya.
See ya.
See ya.